Okay, so now I'm on the Flutter documentation webpage and we're looking at the introduction section under layout to understand what are widgets and what are widget trees. So we're going to look at this specific UI which is given as an example. So over here you can see that you have three different icons for call, for maps or route, and for share, and there are three labels for them, and these are all arranged horizontally. But the two icon and texts inside one group are arranged vertically over here, and there's spacing around these elements over here in this particular fashion. So all this is achieved by using something called a widget tree. So first of all, what is a widget? A widget is a UI element that you can see on the screen, like this call icon or the map icon, or it's a layout element that's helping you arrange these UI elements in a certain fashion, either vertically in the form of a column or horizontally in the form of a row. So that is a very basic way to explain what a widget in Flutter is. So we can look at this widget tree below over here and then try to match it to the UI over here and understand what are the widgets that are being used, how are they arranged, and how are they helping us to basically make this particular UI. So let's start with the simplest widget that we can see over here, which is a text. So you see that there's a text, there are three texts over here, and these are the three texts: call, root, and share that we have. Now, if we had to just show one text, we could have just used, let's say, this particular text, which is call. We could have just used this particular widget, and text is the widget that you'll use in Flutter to actually show text on screen. But we have three different texts that we want to show along with three different icons arranged one below the other. So first, since we want to show the text, we use the text widget. Whenever we show a text in Flutter, we generally add some kind of spacing around the text or some kind of decoration, so that it is center aligned, or it's spaced out from the left or right by a certain amount, so it's not sticking to its borders and so on. So generally a good practice is to put texts inside containers, and that's what you see over here. Container is the widget that basically helps you assign all those properties to a text. So it can help you put spacing around the text or some background shading or some borders and so on. So the text widget is basically put inside a container widget. Now, since you have the concept of a tree, you basically have a concept of a parent and a child. So over here, you can say that the text widget is a child of the container widget, and the container widget has only one child. It can take only one child in Flutter, and that is this text widget. So the container and the text together is what gives you the call over here, and this container and text over here together gives you the root over here, and this container and text over here gives you the share over here. Now what we want is that the text should be present in tandem with an icon above it. This is the icon that you see over here. So the icon widget is used to show these three icons, similar to how we are showing the three texts, right? Now, if again you had to just show one icon, you would have used this icon widget, but since you have three icons, you are using three of these widgets together. Okay, so now we have these three text widgets and these three icon widgets, and we need to connect them together, right? We need to lay them out in a certain fashion which is related to each other. The fashion that we are laying them out in is a vertical alignment, right? So you have an icon, and then just vertically below it you have a text. To do this in Flutter, what we use is a column widget. A column widget is basically a layout widget. So you don't see the column as such, but the column widget can take multiple child widgets. So over here, you're seeing that it takes two child widgets. One is the icon and one is the container. The container itself contains the text, so indirectly it's affecting the text as well. But icon and this group of two widgets, container and text, are basically children of the column widget. And the column widget helps you align these two together in a vertical fashion. So if you just wanted to show now one text, you would have just used this widget with the container, maybe for any kind of spacing or any kind of borders and so on. If you just wanted to show an icon, you would have used this widget. But now what we want to do is we want to show them together, one below the other. So what we do is we provide them as children to a column widget, and now when we use this column widget with two children and then the container widget having a child text widget, we get this particular aspect of the UI, which is an icon and then a text below that icon. Now if we just wanted to show this one group of two widgets over here, we would have just used this one column, but we want to show three of them. So what we do is we create three such columns, each with a different text and a different icon, and then what we get is three such groups, right? But even now, these are not connected to each other, they are individually present. And to connect them together in a horizontal layout, we use what is called a row. Now, the row is a widget that basically arranges its children in a horizontal fashion. And what we want is that we want to arrange not just the text, not just the icon, but the group together arranged vertically. That is one group. And we want to arrange these three groups now horizontally. So to the row, we assign three children, which are these three column widgets. And these three column widgets will then have the two children, which are icon and container, and the container itself has the text widget as a child. So now the row will help us arrange these three groups horizontally, and that's what you see over here. And finally, we put this row inside a container again. Now this container is just used for providing a border and a background decoration over here. The row widget itself also tells how to lay out the widgets horizontally. Do you want to stick them together? Do you want to put some space in between? And that's how we're defining the space in between. There's no widget over here, just that the row widget is instructing its children to be spaced evenly in the given space. So now that we understand how this widget tree is working to create this layout, if we were to start developing an app and think from this particular visual how to decide this widget tree, so we would first think of the root container over here as being the decoration over here. So we would say that, okay, let's create a container which with a light gray background and a border to contain everything else. And then inside that, since we want a horizontal arrangement, we would think of the next widget being this row naturally. And that row would then help us align different elements inside it horizontally. Now we would think about what those elements inside the row should be. And since we know that these are further groups of UI elements aligned vertically, we would think of three different column widgets being children of this row, so that we can then assign widgets to those columns and align them vertically. Now we would think of one of those columns at a time and think what would we want inside that. So given this UI, we would think of putting an icon and a text. So that is what we would assign to that column as children, the text itself being contained inside the container. So while thinking of this UI and how to code that in Flutter, we would start from the topmost widget and then work our way down to individual elements. Thanks for watching, and then now we are going to go on to the next video where we'll actually start building our first app.